Oh, hello. Welcome everyone. We have a very exciting discussion ahead of us today. I'm Ayesha Kiani. I work with LedgerPrime. We're a quantitative hedge fund, primarily leading markets on derivatives, but since 2020, we've been very active in the DeFi space, and we have a lot of our very great portfolio companies
Happy
inside
with
of
the
India.
session?
Um, so that's why this topic is very near and dear to us. Uh, I'm going to open up for the introductions.
Oh my God. Well,
Technical error, I guess, Sandeep.
Yeah. So, hi everyone, I'm Sandeep.
I started like really feeling.
I think somebody's mic is on
Ryan, your
backstage.
mic is still on. Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, I am Sandeep. I am one of the co-founders at Polygon, and at Polygon, I look at the business side of things. That means that anything that is not related to the product development. But I also come from a technical background and I've been in Indian ecosystem like right from the start, and been doing like huge number of hackathons in India. And when we started in 2017, it was like we had hardly few developers in India in blockchain space. But today, I think I see a huge number of teams hiring from India and all that. So I think the ecosystem has grown a lot. So yeah, I'm very excited to talk about it all.
Balaji?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm Balaji Srinivasan, former CTO of Coinbase and former GP at Anderson, and I tweet and invest and write in the space. That's me.
So
Yeah, hi. Soumya this side. I'm one of the co-founder at Instadep. We are building some of the key elements in DeFi infrastructure, mainly on Ethereum, and looking forward to this panel.
Great. I'm going to dive right into the metaverse, right? Like pandemic gave it a boost. Here we are, you both are virtual. So how is the internet bridging the gap in terms of opportunities for individuals, for markets like in India? Like I mentioned, we've actively been investing in India, so there's no geographical distances anymore. What are your thoughts on that? Sandeep, would you like to?
Yeah, I think that's pretty true. And one of my concerns, because when we were raising back in 2017, like it was really really hard for us to raise funds and speak to the investors, speak to the stakeholders of the industry and all that. And I used to think at that point in time that okay, I'm going to, whenever Polygon, or that time we were called Matic Network, whenever it goes big, I'm going to personally help Indian entrepreneurs to get that. And like it was really really difficult. But good thing is that now, because of course, like what crypto offers, that borderless payments and all that, and Indian entrepreneurs are setting up entities outside, and then they can raise funds from crypto VCs all across the world. So in the crypto space in India, it feels like, and especially now we have like examples like Instadap, and Polygon is also there, and multiple projects doing good at a global stage from India. So I think now the funding and these things have become much more easier for Indian entrepreneurs. And yeah, like I think the crypto's borderless nature has played a big role in that. So yeah.
Balaji, would you like to add?
Yeah, so the way I kind of think about it is you go from a physical piece of paper to a scanner to like a natively digital document. And you go from in-person meetings to Zoom, which is sort of like a scanner of the offline world, to natively digital meetings, which would be like a metaverse or VR meetup, where all four of us would effectively be VR avatars. It wouldn't be like in person versus remote. It would all be fully VR. And I think that over this decade, that's going to become the preferred, because you could have a big auditorium in VR, you could have people there, You could see, if you wanted to, various on-chain things kind of visible there. People come in their suits of armor or what have you. And I think that is actually going to flip over as the primary form of meeting. For example, every conversation could be real-time translated. You could have like search or something running in the background to show images corresponding to what the person was saying. The entire experience, I think, will be more whiz-bang than what you can do in the physical world. So I think we're in a transitional stage now before we sort of cut over to that fully.
Somebody, would you like to add?
Yeah, I think Sandeep and Balaji already covered, but just to add one thing, like the addresses that we are like using to like manage this crypto native applications, these are embedded in the internet through like by default. So this helps us, like any developers or any new entrepreneurs who want to get started into this world, they can easily get started from day one without any like previous setup or going through any bureaucratic process, and as Sandeep mentioned, can raise funds globally and get started on developing on what they're trying to do. So that's I mean, inbuilt system that crypto provides through the internet is something opening up the barrier, closing up the barriers that previously entrepreneurs have.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to add on that is that on the customer front also, that now, like, especially I'm talking about Indian entrepreneurs perspective, that, now Indian entrepreneurs, which in my belief are absolutely, top class. I interact with so many Indian entrepreneurs, during my, work at Polygon. And what I feel is that now those entrepreneurs have this global clientele to cater to, right? And I always keep saying that, in this blockchain space, when we are moving, like last 3 years has been infrastructure era. Like, only in the last year, like the dApps, especially DeFi and NFTs have caught up. But before that, it was all about infra, right? And now we are moving from slowly, still like, moving from infra to, dApp era, like with this NFT, DeFi, everything is coming up. And I think, in terms of the scalability, by and large, the industry is ready for next, 1 to 10 million users or something, right? I mean, we still need to do a lot of work on infra to go to 100 million, be ready for 100 million users. But maybe, 10 million users the industry can take now. And in that dApp era, I think, Indian entrepreneurs and Indian developers will have a very big role to play. And, they will get prominence on that because now they have this global audience, global customer base to cater to, building from India. So I'm very, very, very optimistic about that.
Bullish. So given that we're in metaverse, right? Anyone can raise capital from anywhere. We have seen anonymous founders floating around. We don't know where is the coming from. Balaji, I know you've been talking a lot about pseudonymous identities and, people having multiple of them. Wanted to get your thoughts on it, and Sandeep's and Saume's too. Do you think that the more it gets built on, we could face regulatory hurdles? Frankly speaking, I can barely manage my own one identity, so managing like multiple is like a task itself. But yeah, wanted to get the conversation on pseudonymous identities.
Yeah, so I gave a talk a while back on the pseudonymous economy in 2019 where it postulated a few things that would be developed, and I think things have moved even faster over the last couple of years than I had expected. For example, you can use AI to change your voice or face in real time online. Decentralized social networks are now there, at least in embryo, and many other things that would have been sort of prerequisites are starting to really snap into place. Plus, the thing about pseudonymity, why it's particularly interesting, I think, for India and more generally the global South that has just gotten online, is that pseudonymity prevents both discrimination and cancellation. So if you have an accent, or if you're ESL, English is a second language, or if you're really young, or if you just don't look like you're from central casting for whatever that might be, doesn't matter. People can only judge you on your work relevant stuff. And this also prevents people from going after your personal life. If you post something online, you can kind of separate out your earning name, your speaking name, and your real name. And even the term real name, one can argue, is actually a stolen base in the sense of it presumes a certain thing, that every other name is a fake name and that's your real name. A better name might be your legal name or your state assigned name or your global identifier, because it's something that hooks together everything else, as opposed to a local identifier where you sign up on Reddit or Pinterest or whatever, call me Ishmael, you just come up with whatever name you want on that forum. And that's actually, in a very important sense, pseudonymity is decentralization. It's another component of it. Rather than a centralized state name, you have a decentralized name that you choose to use in this particular forum. And with tools like ENS, with crypto identity, you can use that name in one place, or you can bridge it across services, but you have some degree of control over how much of your identity is exposed at any one time. And it's really like a security surface, like an attack surface. I think we're going to realize that over the last 30 years, what we just did is we put the whole world unencrypted online. And, so the kinds of things that, people were concerned about in the 90s and early 2000s, are there going to be stalkers and so on? Actually, yes. Actually, there are like crazy people out there, and it's kind of like humans aren't built for everybody being able to look at everybody all the time. We've kind of made the panopticon real. And I think pseudonymity and encryption and other things kind of restore some sense of privacy and shade in the sense of Jane Jacobs to the internet. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, I mean, and from my side, I think definitely this pseudo-anonymity and using anon accounts and all that is the activity is going, and I'm more interested in is the impact of this pseudo-anonymous and identities on how we do business, right? And for that, identity is something that you own, but other people use it, right? Your identity, your name is used by others, right? So the thing is that, for the identity, I've been also thinking about it a lot, and how whether people, for example, DeFi co-founders, whether, people trust DeFi protocols built by anonymous founders and all that. And what I was thinking is that, we are coming, as human beings, we are coming or building up from a huge, evolutionary cycle where, for hundreds of thousands of years, we have, we kind of, our brains actually trust things which we see, which we, kind of interact with and all that. And the other part is so that's where we are coming from, and it is going to play a good amount of role in how much we trust someone, for at least some time. I don't know how that time is, how much that time is, because I feel that these days the generations kind of change in 6 or 7 years. For example, my younger brother, 8 years younger than me, I don't know, what kind of apps he interacts and what kind of thought process and whatnot. So what I feel is that, but for few, maybe, and I don't think that it is the pseudo-anonymity is going to take over the world, in a very, very fast manner. Maybe it will happen. I mean, that's my opinion, that maybe in a decade or maybe 15 years or whatever, when pseudo-anonymity can become the de facto standard. But then, but I definitely feel that in order to garner trust, you can definitely create online identities which have proven trust, across time. We have a lot of, for example, DeFi developers who are only anonymous, and what they have done and the kind of protocols they have built, people trust on that. So definitely, you can build trust around pseudo-anonymity, which others can use to, do business with you. But I still feel that, this personal, interaction and all that is built into our evolutionary, mindset, and it will take some time to, fully evolve into where we can completely, start trusting and making pseudo-anonymous identities as our mainstay to do businesses. I'm talking about general business. I'm not talking about big influencers, but how, individuals interact with each other and do business.
Sami, would you like to add to that? And then I have a follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, in traditional finance, it was impossible to build a pseudo, name or identity, because you have to do KYC and go through multiple process. But what this new platform or DeFi or blockchain providers build a very verifiable identity online, which can be leveraged for your projects, or you can. It will surely take some time, but new platform does provide a way where you can build that kind of identity. That does have its own drawbacks. Now people are only depending, if you're socially not liable to do something, Then we also seen like many projects where we had like the initial founder like rug pull the whole protocol and stuff because they don't have any social entity tied up anywhere. So, but the overall benefit from this, like my Twitter feeds are mostly around pseudo tweets, tweets from pseudo people. The ratio is growing day by day. So, yeah, that's it.
So my quick question is, because this is, a panel on India and India's tremendous growth over the years, then how is India's government going to play a part in it? Do you think it's well equipped to move ahead with time, or do you think like any other government, like even add American to it right now, would cause many hindrances?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that Indian government is going to remain defensive for quite some time on this because we are coming from a background of like 60, 70 years of a, inefficient system which has corruption and all that. And, only in the last like 2 decades, Indian governments have, tried to put a lot of emphasis on, IT related systems and all that and bringing things to the book. Like, I mean, there is a popular saying in India that, like we say that Indian economy is like $3 trillion, $2 trillion, or whatever it is, right? And like the saying is that almost like 50 to 100% of that economy exists in black markets, which doesn't even come to the books, right? I mean, real estate market, for example, I don't think like even 20-30% of that market even now comes on the books. It happens off in cash and all that. So I mean, they are coming from that last 70 years of this inefficient system to, IT systems and having some level of control, bringing things to the books. And then moment you introduce crypto and these anonymous accounts, and boom, everything last 20 years, 30 years of work goes for a toss. So I don't think that they are going to be very open-minded in short run. And that's why like I feel the step-by-step regulation, like some favorable regulation, which I've heard that is coming, like making or kind of declaring crypto as commodities, and maybe NFTs, like even my opinion were taken in some of the things, and I said that NFTs are like basically how you kind of buy or hold real world assets. So things like this. So if let's say a kind of a favorable law comes, which still makes your life hard by doing KYC and all that, but still like does not outright bans thing. It is like very, very, very good for us. And then, but our government is going to take like very, very small steps and then only reach there. But I think as we all said that in this metaverse, like these borders and a lot of these things don't really matter. You can set up a entity if you have to at all, like otherwise DAOs are going to completely disrupt it. So you can simply set up a DAO, raise funds over there and then do everything on chain, online. So it is going to be very, very hard. Like whenever I interact with government officials, my only statement to them is that first of all, you have to realize that genie is out of the bottle and you have to deal with it. Like there is no way. You have to kind of join it, right? And like I mean but for the government side of things, I think they are going to take only small steps. I don't expect radical changes from Indian government because being such a large country and coming from that background and so much like 1.5 billion retail to protect, billion people to protect, I don't think they're going to take very radical steps and becoming like very open to crypto in very short amount of time.
Would you guys like to add, Balaji?
Yeah, well, I think that, I'm bullish on Indians and Indian founders. I am cautiously optimistic on, India as a whole, as a country, and the Indian government, because I think that there are actually some forces which may push them, in sort of a good direction. Namely, a big one is that because the U.S. and China are turning their tech companies into instruments of global deplatforming and surveillance and unbanking, with basically quasi-nationalization in China and all the antitrust stuff in the US, which will take some time, but will eventually terminate in the NSA and the FBI getting all the backdoors they want into Google and Facebook, et cetera. That'll be part of any settlement. Almost certainly the national security state will get what it wants. It's not purely an economic thing. So when that happens, you've got something where what we've seen in terms of one-off deplatforming then just becomes a routine tool of policy, just like bailouts in 2008, which were exceptional and aberrant and oh my God, a one-off, have become a routine tool of policy. that don't even rate huge headlines anymore. It's $1 trillion, how many trillions of dollars are printed? And so the point being that India, in order to maintain sovereign communication and transaction channels without being deplatformed by American tech companies or Chinese tech companies, is probably going to need to embrace decentralized protocols as a national security issue, such that its politicians, such that its banks, such that its people are not being able to just summarily be thrown off the internet by some people in Palo Alto or Beijing or what have you. And I think that is actually a long-term driver that I think will push not just India, but every other country that's not the US or China into the decentralization camp. And then it'll also push a lot of US states and cities and so on into that camp. And then we'll see what happens with China.
Sabe, would you like to add?
I think Sandeep and Balaji already added a lot. So we can move forward.
So I wanted to move on to the next important point, which is something that we often get as a fund, right? Like trust barriers. We think that even throughout, like in traditional tech or in traditional finance, a lot of unicorns have come out of India. There's no doubt about it, given how large the economy, how large the country is. But even on the crypto side, we often get asked, but how can you trust? How can you trust? We have an answer to that because we do our extensive due diligence. One of our team members is based out of India. And then, you know, we're a hedge fund first, so we believe in taking risk first more than anything. In order for the economy to grow as an overall, what do you think the founders need to do on the trust barrier side? Like, given that we're going, you know, pseudonymous identities, we're going the DAO models, what else the founders can do?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with that. So first, like, you know, go with the basic principle of blockchains, like don't trust, verify. So, you know, check their code, what they have built, check their product. But I completely understand what you are saying, like, you know, because we also face the same thing, that, you know, the Western investors, you know, don't have that level of trust on, you know, like not only Indian, I think like it will be applicable to all the, any non-Western, you know, kind of economy. And I think what a very kind of big role is played by what kind of co-founder, what kind of like, you know, like flag bearing projects are coming from that, you know, location. And I feel that, you know, like when like Polygon started doing a bit well, then, you know, people started thinking that, okay, you know, there can be decent projects can come out of it. And then, you know, projects like Instadab, Juno Bank, and there are like multiple such protocols like now who are doing very well on this, you know, in the crypto space. And I think now I already see a lot of investors want to invest in Indian companies. And then for all this kind of like reference checking and all that, like now we have, you know, people like, you know, Soumya, me, and there are so many people like, you know, whom they can reach out to and verify whether a particular team is legit or not. The other part is that I also feel, and which I am like very now bullish about, is that a lot of entrepreneurial elite of India is coming into it. Like when I say that, I mean that, you know, people from the top-notch like engineering colleges of India, people from the top-notch business schools of India, and people who have actually done and you know kind of done things on the traditional startup space, have exited companies, and now they are looking to do something in crypto. And I think that also again like comes from because they saw some success stories, like, you know, like Polygon also got a lot of coverage in our mainstream media. So, you know, definitely it becomes kind of an aspiration, and they can easily see that this is like a big opportunity, you know, for this fledgling space yet. So I think like already a lot of good like entrepreneur elite is coming in, and then, you know, now you have like a lot of flag bearing projects and all that. And from the funds perspective, like I think those are like some of the good things to look at. And plus, you know, now you have a large ecosystem where you have like some trusted people from where to, you know, to whom you can get like more references and whatnot. But again, like, you know, in the blockchain space, you know, don't trust, verify, you know, check their code, what they have built, how many users they have on chain. And yeah, like then you can.
Would you guys like to add something,
Yeah.
Balji?
Yeah, so when we started like Instadap initially, the trust building part was very tricky for us. Like when we just started out, and we went to like through like as you know, like the Instadep came out of the hackathon project. So the trust building part or networking part happened through meeting people back to back in different events, going checking out the events, and there was also like many events like New York and San Francisco that we had attended and meet and build this crypto network among ourselves while we are coding or building stuff remotely somewhere in India. So at that time, it was a bit problematic process, but I think today, as we are seeing like a whole different horizon are like developing in this whole blockchain ecosystem. It's no more like a protocol or a single blockchain thing. Multi-chain world is coming up. There's DAO, which are like an on-chain organization, which helps you like coordinate between different people in building or achieving a mission in like this global ecosystem. So the things are, or the building blocks are building up where you can actually verify stuff. The toolings are very improving. The infrastructure around them are also, in a way, like the trust development is again more easier. You can now easily read smart contracts to website. There are many libraries to like even have a quick check. So to many things that our developers are building, and the overall community is also growing, which also helps you like to verify like how the community around this project or this team lead or is going going ahead. So overall things are improving, and I think this will continue to happen and in a more compounding way.
Balzi, would you like to add?
Nothing to add there.
Okay.
I want to ask Balaji one question, like, on this, identity things that, Balaji, like, for example, now these in-person events have opened up and all that. And in the last 1.5 years, we saw a lot of like, these pseudo-anonymous founders doing DeFi protocols and all that. But with this, like, economies opening up, like, definitely, COVID gave a big boost to this metaverse theory and, like having everything online. But then now I'm already seeing that when these events are opening up and everything, that more and more investors are again going back to in-person meetings, and they want to, because, there is, as I was saying that, because there's an evolutionary baggage of ours to, interact and meet and, then trust people. So how do you see this playing out over the next like decade or so?
It's a great question. And I think the short answer is that if you're familiar with the concept of hysteresis from physics, sometimes you can apply a stimulus or a force and, for example, magnetize something. And then even when you've removed that, there's a degree of magnetization or polarization that remains. Yeah. And so even if the force of COVID was removed, there's now a subculture, at least some percentage of people who just prefer full remote for everything. And that is now seen as a legitimate preference to do that. People will sort of nod their head and be like, okay, fine, we'll do it that way, right? And that's a critical thing where enough of the world was switched over to that it's no longer considered an absolute must or very rude if you don't go in person for a big meeting. People say, okay, fine, I understand, let's do it remote. And so that's a permanent shift, I think. And I think it's also permanent because there's going to be, this will sound a little depressing and I don't mean it to be, but no one was prepared for 10 years or 20 years of Iraq, and no one's prepared for 10 years of COVID. And what I mean by that is just variants will keep coming up, and there's people are like newly health conscious now. So I think it's not long before we start seeing dashboards for other kinds of contagious illnesses. People are doing more glucose monitoring, more health stuff. You're actually able to spend more time with your family and doing exercise and whatnot when you're not traveling as much, when you're not getting on a plane. And so I think that while it's a different set of trade-offs, I do believe the remote world is here to stay. Even if there's some springing back from the forced 100% remote, it swings back to X% plus 1 minus X%. That X% doesn't go away. And in fact, I think that actually sort of becomes the future over time. But we figure out different affordances, whether that's Zuck's new VR, AR glasses, so you can walk outside rather than being online indoors all the time. Whether that's like better voice stuff, whether that's like immersive, like AR rooms where you get like an AR office. Lots of possibilities. I don't know what all the answers are going to be, but I do think that remote is definitely here to stay.
Well, thank you so much. I only have 17 seconds. I had actually one last question, if you guys can answer in one word. Do you think we have the infrastructure and dev tooling in place if we were to go all remote again tomorrow, aside from Zoom and aside from the mentality that we've acquired by now?
I think yes.
Yes. Sandeep, Some, Balaji?
Affirmative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.